London streets were quiet, the air heavy with respect. Then, people noticed him, a wounded royal guard, standing tall, holding his salute for 3 long hours. No break, no shade, just silence and pain. But when a roaring group of bikers pulled up, jaws dropped. What they did next, no one saw it coming. James's background and motivation. James Windsor wore the Red Royal Guard uniform with pride. He stood straight and still outside Buckingham Palace for many years. People came from all over the world to take photos of the guards. They thought it looked easy, but standing that long, in full dress, takes strength and focus. For James, it also meant something more. Before the public posts, James was a trained soldier. He joined the Royal Guards young, ready to serve. His uniform had medals on it. Each one told a story. He had earned them through hard work, duty, and courage. But behind the proud uniform was a man who had seen war and pain. James served in Afghanistan with his best friend, Thomas. They had trained together, marched together, and even stood guard side by side at the palace. They laughed, joked, and looked out for each other. They shared plans for the future. But life changed during one mission. Their unit was out on patrol when a roadside bomb exploded. The blast threw James to the ground. His knee was badly hurt. He could not move. Smoke filled the air. Gunfire started. People screamed. Then James saw Thomas. He was helping a group of civilians caught in the street. Thomas moved fast to protect them. In doing that, he got hit. He died saving lives. James came home with a limp and a heavy heart. The pain in his leg stayed, but the pain in his heart was harder to carry. He lost his best friend. They were like brothers. Every day, James felt the loss. At night, he often thought about that day. He asked himself why Thomas had to be the one. Over time, James looked for ways to heal. He spoke with other soldiers. He spent time with people who understood. But what helped most was finding a purpose. He wanted to honor Thomas. He wanted to make sure people remembered him, so he started a new tradition. Each year on Remembrance Day, James stood in full uniform at a public event. He stood in the street for hours without moving. His knee ached. The cold hurt his bones. But he stayed in position. His salute was for Thomas. It was for all the soldiers who never made it home. James never spoke much about his loss. But when he stood in silence, people felt it. They saw the effort. They felt the meaning. He did not need to explain. His actions said it all. The pain, the pride, the promise. For James, this was more than a ceremony. It was his way of showing love and respect. It helped him feel close to Thomas, and it reminded everyone around him what Remembrance Day was really about. James stood tall, not because he had to, but because he chose to remember, to honor, to heal. But on this particular Remembrance Day, James would discover he wasn't standing alone. What happened next would show him that honor and respect come from the most unexpected places. The 3-hour vigil. The morning in London was cold and wet. Rain fell from the gray sky. People hurried by with umbrellas and coats. In the middle of it all stood one man, Sergeant James Windsor. He wore the bright red Royal Guard uniform and a tall black hat. Water dripped from his hat and shoulders. His boots stayed firm on the ground. His hand was raised in a salute. He stood still. He didn't move. James had served for many years. He knew how to stand tall, but today was harder than any other. His knee throbbed. Cold air made the pain sharper. Rain soaked his uniform. The thick fabric grew heavy. Water ran down his back and legs. His gloves were wet. His fingers were stiff. But he kept holding the salute. Every second felt longer. The wind blew harder. His jaw tightened. His face was pale, but he stayed in place. He had come to honor his best friend, Thomas, who died in Afghanistan. James had made a promise to always remember him. This moment was part of that promise. At first, people walked past. Some looked his way. Some kept going. Then a few stopped. They saw the uniform. They saw the salute. They started asking around. More people gathered. Some took photos. Others stood in silence. Someone posted a picture online. It showed James standing in the rain. The photo spread fast. Soon, more people came. They stood on the sidewalk, watching. Some whispered, some cried. A little boy waved a small flag. A veteran gave a quiet salute. Reporters showed up too. Cameras stayed back, letting the moment speak for itself. James stood for 1 hour, then 2, then 3. His knee hurt badly. His arms were tired. The rain kept falling, but he didn't leave. He came with a reason. He stayed with a purpose. People in the crowd felt something strong. They didn't know all the details, but they saw the pain and the heart. They saw the respect. They saw what it meant to stand in silence. His uniform clung to him like a second skin. His boots felt like stone, but his back stayed straight. His hand stayed raised. His eyes looked ahead. The crowd grew larger. Some people laid flowers nearby. Others stood with heads bowed. They were no longer just watching. They were part of the moment. James had brought them together without saying a word. By the end of the 3rd hour, his arms shook. His body was tired. But the feeling in the air had changed. It was no longer just a man in uniform. It was a memory. It was honor. It was love. As James endured his 3rd hour in the cold rain, a distant rumble began to echo through the streets. The sound grew louder, and soon everyone would see something that would change the entire atmosphere. The bikers' arrival. The rain kept falling in London. People stood along the street, umbrellas open, jackets zipped tight. Everyone was watching James Windsor. He stood tall in the cold, holding his salute. His leg hurt, his fingers were numb, but he stayed in place. The ceremony was quiet. Then, something changed. A deep rumble came from far away. It was the sound of motorcycle engines. The noise grew louder and closer. People started to turn around. Their eyes searched the road. A group of bikers appeared through the rain. Dozens of them. Riding slowly. Their engines echoed off the buildings. The crowd looked unsure. Some people moved back a little. They didn't know what to expect. These riders wore black leather. Some had beards, dark glasses, or patches on their jackets. The look was rough. Some people thought they were trouble. The kind who break rules. People started whispering. The moment felt too serious for something loud and sudden like this. But the bikers didn't cause trouble. They stopped their engines, one by one. They parked. No one shouted. No one made noise. They stepped off their bikes and stood still. Many of them wore small red poppies on their jackets. Some had medals too. Their faces were calm. They didn't look angry. They looked respectful. The bikers slowly walked toward James. They moved with care. Some took off their helmets. Others kept their eyes on James. They didn't say a word. Then something quiet and powerful happened. They made a circle around him. They stood behind him, shoulder to shoulder. Some of them raised their hands in salute. Others lowered their heads. They formed a wall, not to block, but to protect. They came to show respect. People in the crowd started to see it. These bikers were not there to ruin anything. They came because they cared. Many of them were veterans, too. They had served in the Army, Navy, or Air Force. They knew pain. They had lost friends, too. They came to stand with one of their own. The crowd began to change. Fear turned into respect. People took out their phones and started filming. Photos spread online. Comments poured in. People were moved by what they saw. The rain kept falling, but no one moved. It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was this moment. The bikers stayed quiet. They didn't speak. They didn't try to take the spotlight. They came for James. They came for every soldier who gave their life. Their clothes didn't matter. Their loud engines didn't matter. What mattered was the heart behind their actions. Sometimes people expect the worst. They see leather and loud bikes and think of danger. But these bikers showed something else. They showed respect, they showed care, and they showed that real honor comes in many forms. The circle of leather-clad riders around James was just the beginning. What they did next would leave the crowd speechless and show the true meaning of brotherhood. The unthinkable acts of respect. The bikers parked their motorcycles and stepped off one by one. They didn't rush. They moved slowly and with care. No loud voices, no wild moves. Each biker took off their helmet and looked toward James. Their faces were calm. Some had gray hair. Some had military patches on their jackets. These were not strangers to duty. Many of them had served too. James stood alone in the rain. His red uniform was heavy and soaked. Water dripped from his hat. His hand stayed up in salute. His knee hurt more with each minute, but he did not move. He was there to honor his friend, and he meant to finish what he started. The bikers walked closer. They did not crowd him. They formed a quiet line in front of him. Then they stood still, shoulder to shoulder, facing forward. It looked like a guard of honor. They stood just like soldiers, firm and proud. The rain kept falling, but they did not flinch. Some raised their right hands in a salute, just like James. The crowd watched in silence. The bikers were strong and quiet. No one told them what to do. They felt the moment. They understood what James was doing, and they chose to stand with him. Then, the small acts of care began. One biker, older with white hair, stepped forward. He had a metal thermos. He opened it and poured a cup of hot tea. Without saying a word, he walked over and placed it near James's feet. Then he stepped back. The tea was warm and ready, waiting for James when he could take it. Another biker saw how wet James was. He went to his motorcycle and pulled out a raincoat. Then he walked behind James and held it above him. He didn't touch James or block his view. He just stood there, holding the coat high to keep the rain off his back. A third biker reached into his jacket and pulled out a small folded Union Jack flag. He walked over slowly. Then he bent down and placed it near James's boot. He didn't say anything. He just gave that flag as a gift, a sign of pride, and stepped back into the line. More people in the crowd started to cry. Some placed hands on their hearts. Others stood taller. No one looked away. No one spoke. The air felt full of respect. James stayed in position. His arm shook a little, but he stayed strong. He felt the pain, but he also felt something else. He was not standing alone anymore. The bikers gave him support, not with words, but with action. These small acts of kindness in the rain created something bigger than anyone expected. As the ceremony drew to a close, the impact of this moment would ripple far beyond the London streets. The conclusion and message. The rain had not stopped, but something in the air had changed. As the church bells began to ring across London, the crowd fell even quieter. The ceremony was coming to an end. For 3 long hours, Sergeant James Windsor had stood still, holding a perfect salute. His arm ached, his knee throbbed, his uniform was soaked through. But he had stayed strong for every second. As the final bell rang, James slowly lowered his arm. His movement was steady and full of grace. He looked straight ahead. His face showed pain, but also peace. His duty was complete. He had honored his friend Thomas. He had honored every guard who never made it home. The bikers standing around him gave small nods. A few reached out and gently shook his hand. No one spoke loudly. Their actions were simple, full of respect. People in the crowd wiped tears from their cheeks. Others clapped softly. Some placed their hands on their hearts. No one rushed to leave. They had all witnessed something powerful. James took a moment to breathe. Then he stepped forward and addressed the crowd. His voice was calm, but strong. He thanked the people who stood in the rain to watch. Then he turned to the bikers. He said he saw their true hearts. He called them patriots. He said you don't have to wear a uniform to serve your country. Kindness, respect, and support. That's what service looks like too. He spoke about his best friend Thomas. He said, Thomas gave everything to protect others. He said, standing in the rain was a small way to keep his memory alive. He said, today showed something bigger than one man's salute. It showed that people from different walks of life could come together for something good. James said we all serve in our own way. Some carry rifles, others carry water or raise a flag. All of it matters. All of it means something. His words hit deep. The crowd listened closely. They felt the truth in his message, and they saw it play out right before their eyes. That day changed more than just minds. It changed hearts. People who once feared bikers now saw their strength, their care, and their pride. The wall between tradition and modern life came down a little. For a brief moment, everyone stood on the same side. The pictures and videos from that day spread fast. Across Britain and beyond, people saw what happened in the rain. They saw the injured guard and the silent bikers. They saw the salute, the kindness, the unity. James had done what he set out to do. He honored Thomas. He reminded people of what service really means. And he helped the nation remember that strength comes in many forms. On a cold, rainy day, one man stood tall, and a group of bikers showed the world what true respect looks like. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a little hope. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful moments like this.